Hey everybody, JJ coming back to you from the dungeon. Just down here practicing and messing around and stuff like that, listening to some music. And the past few weeks, I've been kind of on a Guns N' Roses kick, and thinking about the band and stuff. I'm not sure. I can't remember if they had made the news. I'd seen something anyways, and I go in these cycles where it's, listen to a band for a long time, kind of go away, listen to something else, and then come back. And, Guns N' Roses is one of those bands that, I'm a child of the 80s, and Guns N' Roses, might be the biggest band of the 80s, arguably. So, they've always been on my radar and always, somewhere somewhere on the turntable or close to it anyways for listening. So, being on the Guns N' Roses kick, I've done a handful of covers and kind of put those out in the last little while. But it got me thinking about Steven Adler, who was Guns N' Roses' original drummer, and that era of the band. And it was very short lived. And I was thinking about my initial kind of exposure to the band and stuff. And Appetite for Destruction is the obviously the most well-known album probably from Guns N' Roses at this point. And clearly I had listened to the radio as a youngster. I would have been 6 or 7 years old at that point when that album was out, and it was all over the rock radio that I was listening to. So songs like Paradise City, Welcome to the Jungle, not My Michelle, that was never on the radio, but the other radio singles I had clearly heard and really, really liked. And Paradise City was a particular favorite of mine. It was just like it's such a amazing guitar riff on that one. And I've gone on for a minute now about Appetite for Destruction, but it's actually not the first Guns N' Roses album that I had. And the first Guns N' Roses album I ever had was this one. Not the vinyl, but I had the CD of this, and it was one of my older brothers, and he just, I don't know if he moved and left it with me or forgot it or whatever, but this is the one that I had before Appetite for Destruction. And if you don't know the cover, GNR Lies, this is the their second album, but it's kind of like it's not strange, but it's it's half EP and half kind of it's like two EPs almost, where it's a collection of 4 songs kind of from 2 different eras, and it's partly a live album, and it's like it's just a compilation in a way. And it I don't know if the release of this album was just kind of like, let's get something else out. I'm talking the band. It's like, let's, after the kind of delayed success of Appetite, it kind of almost feels like this might be like let's get something out right now so we can capitalize on it before we put another full-length album out. And so yeah, this is the album I ended up having. One of the very, very first CDs I ever owned was GNR Lies. And I don't know if my parents would have been too happy had they known that I had it. If you know anything about the inner sleeve of this, there's it's a really cool concept album. The artwork and the way it ties in, and it's all about kind of tabloid fodder and stuff like that. And this song or this album has maybe possibly the most kind of controversial Guns N' Roses song they ever did. And, the song One in a Million, some of the lyrics that were in that song, it's a great song. And personally, I always separate the art from the artist. I've seen interviews with Axl talking about it, and, he's talking in a character. It's not his personal opinion. I mean, it could have been, who knows, but the way that he prefaced it was that he was speaking in a character's voice about his thoughts in that song. And if you know the song, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's some questionable and offensive things that are in there, especially for the time. And it's not a surprise that a band like Guns N' Roses would kind of court controversy and things like that. But it's interesting that that song's kind of taken a different light, in the band recently. I think when they had released like a box set, I believe they left 1 in a Million off of the box set, like as a, for whatever reason. I could be wrong about that, but if you know, leave a comment down below. But it's just one of those things. I guess 30 years on or 20 years on, whatever it is, maybe feelings change about certain songs and things like that. But another cool song, if you're familiar with Appetite for Destruction, there's a song called "You're Crazy" on there, and that's like a up-tempo rock version of it. I love that version, but the very first version I ever heard of that song was the acoustic version that's on Lies. So to me, this is like the original "You're Crazy," and the one that's on Appetite for Destruction is the other version, which is hard for most people to kind of grasp. But it's just how my mind works with that. It's, you hear the first thing first, and that's what you get. So, but yeah, another song, Patience, is on this. Amazing song. It's just, it was one of the, probably the single that came off of this, and it was another, big song for them, like similar to A Sweet Child of Mine, where it was kind of like it had a wide appeal. Girls loved it, guys loved it, like everybody just widely adopted that song, and it was a massive hit, and it's a great song too. It's just like lyrically, it's not one I paid much attention to, but there's a lot of sentiment in it. You can kind of feel that in the Axl's performance and stuff. And Used to Love Her, another kind of controversial song. I was actually the cover band I was performing, and we were doing that song, and we were never sure how well it was would go over with people, but surprisingly, the demographic we were playing to, they seemed to know quite a few of the words, and it's a very tongue-in-cheek song, and I think people can kind of listen to it and laugh at the lyrics a little bit, and it's very tongue-in-cheek, but also a great song too. And so the kind of like you've got 4 songs, like say from let's call that the acoustic compilation, where it's like a lot of hand drumming from Steven and acoustic guitars, and just like these really kind of stripped down performances, which are amazing. And then the kind of the B-side of this, the other compilation for this album, let's call it, the other 4 songs, are kind of like, I can't remember offhand if they actually are some live recordings. I want to say it's probably just like done in the studio, and then audience reactions kind of added later on to give it, that kind of live vibe or whatever. But, it's kind of like probably some songs from the early days of Guns N' Roses, like pre-Appetite for Destruction. There's a cover song on here, Mama Kin from Aerosmith, and I was familiar with Aerosmith's version. My older sister, she had was a bunch of Aerosmith albums, and I had heard it through that. But to hear Guns N' Roses do a version of it, which was really cool. And actually, I kind of prefer the Guns N' Roses version a bit more even than the Aerosmith one. It has a bit more kind of energy to it, and it was more appealing to a youngster at that point. It just had a kind of bigger energy to it, let's call it. So I really enjoyed that a lot. Reckless Life, Nice Boys, Move to the City, kind of songs that might get sort of lost in the discography of Guns N' Roses over the years. Definitely gets overshadowed when you start getting into the Appetite for Destruction albums and some of the Use Your Illusion stuff. But all great songs, and I always loved the whole like artwork and concept of this album. Like it was, like getting back to the tabloid thing, and it was such a cool the band is just like on top of the world at this point, and they have such a cool look with all the guys, and it's I'm trying not to show the insert. There's a particularly not so great picture on the back here, if you know what I mean. But like this era of the band, that's I believe this predates the Appetite, and you've got the band kind of settling into their look, and man, it's like looking at this as a kid was just like it's just like these guys are the coolest guys on earth, And yeah, awesome. It brings back such good memories. Kind of taking this out and giving it a spin every now and then. And if you've never checked this out or never heard of it, I don't know how. I know obviously Guns N' Roses fans know about this album, but in the kind of general consensus of rock albums and big bands and album releases and stuff like that, I don't know if this one gets its kind of if it's due respect or whatever you want to say. But yeah, it's got some amazing music on here, and it's a really good production. Sounds amazing. Like it's so well recorded and so well done. And this is the band at the heights before the excess really kind of takes over and things get a little, like, say what you want about Use Your Illusion, but there's some bloat, quote unquote bloat, that's on that album. 8-9 minute songs and a lot of decadence and stuff like that. And this is kind of the last hurrah of the band as the dirty kind of like street punk aesthetic and stuff like that. And yeah, it's an amazing album and one of my longtime favorites. And I think when I finish this video, I'm going to give it another spin. So if you haven't checked out GNR Lies, check it out. Check out any of it. There's only 8 songs. You can get through it in a lunch. Get a nice sandwich and put this thing on, and you might find something you dig. So this is one about GNR Lies. Check it out. Cheers.